There's an amazing power in music to open people's minds, to introduce them to things, to alter their perspective in ways you really can't do in any other medium. I started playing doumbek, which is a North African hand drum, when I lived in southern France, and I actually ran into an Egyptian doumbek master when I lived there, and he taught me for a while. And then he left. We stayed at my house for several days and taught me how to play doumbek. And after he left, a few days later, somebody from the village just came to my house and brought me a doumbek out of the blue and just said, "I thought you might want this." And I said, "Yeah, that's amazing. I can't believe that you brought this to me. I just was studying with this Egyptian master, and it's an amazing instrument, and I'm learning how to play it." I played my doumbek up in the mountains in France for a few weeks, and then the Egyptian master, who had been up in the mountains the whole time, came back down the mountain road where I lived, and I saw him walking down the mountain, and I went out to the edge of the precipice and started playing my doumbek to alert him to the fact that I now had a doumbek, and I was excited like a puppy. And he came up the path to my house, and I said, look, I have a doumbek now." And he said, "Of course." And that kind of resonated in my head probably for the next 20 years as a statement of the metaphysics of drumming and how it operates in other cultures. For him, it was normal that after studying with a master, that someone would bring me the drum that I was studying. For me, it was an amazing coincidence. And those coincidences basically continued through the rest of my life.
This next piece comes from the Igbo tribe of Nigeria, and the words mean, "The things you're waiting for in life, here they come. The music you've been waiting to hear, this is it. The time is now." And it's a song that's sung by the National Dance Troupe when they come into town. So they actually come into town playing music. And this is the song that they play as they come into town. Oh,
Babatunde Olatunji was famous for saying, "If you can say it, you can play it." So he would make sure that you could say the rhythm in drum language, like gung gung godo godo gung gung pa pa, before you ever touched a drum. And I taught my students that they could practice that way. If you're not doing anything at the time and you don't have your drum, you can practice the drum language of whatever you're learning. And by the process of internalizing the rhythm that you're learning through drum language and the recitation of the drum language, you basically get your molecular, cellular level to tune itself or attune itself and synchronize with the rhythm that you're learning. And at that point, again, to quote Babatunde Olatunji, drumming and singing at the same time is easy, because one of the things they say in various African tribes is that you teach the rhythm to your drum. Then once your drum knows the rhythm, you're free to sing. And the drum plays the music.
This is gucheng, the Chinese harp. It's an instrument that I've been playing my whole life. And I'm going to improvise for you.
A lot of times when I start off my young kids show, I'll take out an instrument called an egwe, which is referred to as the original telephone, because it basically was used, it's a form of log drum played in different tribes that was used to transmit messages from one village to another. And so I often start my children's show by playing the egwe and explaining to them that it's the original telephone, and that before there were wires or video games or telephones, that this was how people communicated, by playing messages in drum language on the egwe from village to village, and that if they wanted to make a long distance call, one village would relay it to the next, and this message would be transmitted over miles and miles. And then I usually, with a younger kids audience in elementary school, I'll usually tap something out and kind of fake my way through a conversation, saying, you know, hey, can you come out and play after school? While tapping the eggway, like I'm making the phone call on the phone. And then the other kid answering back, no, my mom says I got to do my homework first. And then tapping back, well, maybe when you get done, we can play video games. And I tap back on the eggway, what do you mean? They haven't been invented yet. And that usually gets a pretty good laugh out of an elementary school audience. And they're hooked at that point because they relate to what they're seeing experientially, and it fills some kind of gap in their knowledge and their lives. There's something very primally essential about drumming as perhaps our first instrument as human beings, that it's pretty easy with a little bit of practice to get young audiences absorbed into learning about it. It's something that I've heard from teachers countless times at different elementary schools. How did you get them to do that? The teachers are always asking me that. And I'm always saying, I don't think I did it. I think they really want this. They really want to learn about drumming, and they want to learn about other cultures, and they're completely open to it and primed for it. So I think it kind of, to some extent, it just does itself. With older students, say in college, for example, a lot of these people are potentially going on to be musicians in their life if they're not already musicians. And again, it fills in a gap in their knowledge that you don't find in conventional Western musical education. So I tend to load them up with polyrhythm and teach them about the juxtaposition of notes and how to create a matrix of sound that doesn't exist in our musical palette.
It's known as an African thumb piano, also called an mbira, and it's played throughout Eastern Africa.
One of my first experiences in the U.S. was with Babatunde Olatunji, who's credited with bringing African drumming to the United States. His album Drums of Passion in 1959 sold 19 million copies or 29 million copies, I don't remember, a lot. And I studied with him in Manhattan, and he taught me drum language, which is a system of learning the notes of the drum and how they correspond to words in various African languages. After him, I studied with a number of masters from all over the world. And most notably was Nwanyama Chikeibe from Nigeria. His name means the path to God through music, and he's considered to be Nigeria's greatest living wood xylophone player. And I studied with him while I was teaching at Vassar College. We toured and performed together, and he was a very strict master and basically married me to his instrument, the engelenge, which is the Nigerian wood xylophone, and told me that I would master the xylophone as I had mastered the drums, and just kind of decided that that was gospel.
This instrument is the engelenge wood xylophone from Nigeria, Igbo tribe. It's made from a very special wood called oku. Oku is actually an endangered species, and in Igbo it means to speak. And the Igbo people believe that the spirit of all sound lives in this wood. So it's only allowed to be handled by high priests of music. They fear that if anyone else handled this wood, the spirit of sound would flee it and the world would fall silent forever.
Finding that these different instruments were wired to different parts of my soul, basically, and gave me a way to express the poetic aspect of my thoughts musically. So the journey is really just, it feels like it's just beginning all the time. It really does. It feels like it's the beginning of something amazing. Every time I make a mistake when I'm practicing, it sends me in a whole new direction. That's sort of a stolen quote from Andre Segovia, a classical guitarist, but it's very true. Making a mistake takes you in a whole new direction. And I think that there's something to having been thrown out of the elementary school orchestra that kind of fueled my journey outside the norm of music and continues to.
Some things you just can't explain. Like how love can be so very, very strange. And the moon, the rain, and you. I can't explain the things you do. I can't explain, won't you help me through? I know you could if you wanted to. Some things you just can't explain. Like how love is, love can be so very strange. And the moon up above, the rain falling down, and you all around, my love. I can't explain the things you do. I can't explain, won't you help me through? I know you could if you wanted to.